travelers, wanderers, and people that turned left instead of turning right. Welcome to Tavern Chat, with your host, Dave the Bard. Grab a drink, have a seat, and let's have a chat. As someone who spends time searching the wild, untamed wasteland known as the Internet, it has been a wise decision to learn more about the pitfalls and scarier places so that I can either steer clear of them or be able to properly brace myself for their chaotic, crass cacophony of crude quips. 4chan. Thankfully, I don't plan on talking about them today. I want to talk about the places of refuge, the communities that slowly grew across the land, built from the passions and talents of many people coming together so that they may stand under one banner. I am, of course, talking about gaming orgs, or content orgs if that's a more familiar term. Before we get started, I want to quickly define what I mean when I'm talking about an org. An org, or organization, in the context of what we're going to be talking about today, is a group of people passionate about esports, content creation, or gaming in general that have come together to identify collectively under a single banner or brand. The best, most well-known examples of this are Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, FaZe, Cloud9, and OTK, or the One True King network. Some orgs focus only on esports and have multiple teams representing them across different games. Some orgs are more creator-oriented, focusing on building an influence through digital media and content creation, to be not so specific. There are also orgs that do both, which has been slightly more common, especially with esports tournaments often providing a source of revenue for orgs to build out their network in either the content or esports scene. Orgs can vary in size significantly, from the smallest orgs having less than a dozen people attempting to break into the competitive scene with smaller tournaments and things along those lines, to some of the largest orgs being valued at $540 million based on a Forbes article from back in 2022. Numbers have probably changed, but you get the idea. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, very likely you are a smaller creator like myself. Someone that is still trying to figure out exactly what kind of content they want to be making. Still trying to figure out the style you want to go with for your editing. And you have this question nagging at the back of your mind, ever since you got that spam-looking DM on Twitter a couple weeks back from someone that said they are impressed by your content and believe you have a lot of potential. When do you take the next step, whatever that step may be? For me, I decided about a month and a half ago that I wanted to start working on getting picked up by an org. One that had been inactive for quite some time and had only recently been resurrected. Along the way, I started asking questions to friends and fellow content creators that I'd come to know, as well as some of the people that were also grinding to join the org, and some of the people that ended up getting in. I like doing my research if that isn't obvious at this point. That being said, I want to talk about my findings and some of the conclusions I came up with. Firstly, let's set some parameters. You are a content creator that is making consistent content, whether it's short form, long form, live streamed, audio, video, art, music, whatever. Just being consistent with your creating. It's important. And honestly, if you can't stay consistent with creating your content, you might want to figure out why not and try to set that as a goal. Because showing that you are a persistent and passionate person will often get you a lot more eyes looking at you from potential orgs, sponsors, people that want to work with you. You get it. Now, let's say that you've done that, and you've decided that you want to join an org. Here's what I was looking for, and you can come with your own list and begin your search that way. I wanted to join a smaller org. Not something with hundreds of creators, but also not one with a significant barrier to entry. I wanted to find creators like myself, still in their early stages, or at least still on the smaller pond, if you catch my metaphor. I also wanted to join one that had a good reputation of supporting its community, one that doesn't have any bad eggs that were still representing the org, and at least one esports team. That last one is more personal preference, simply because I love to support a team that I can call mine. These guys, they're representing me, and I want to show the support that they deserve for working hard at their craft. It also helps if there are already homies that I know in the org, so that as an introvert, it's a little bit easier to assimilate and make friends. Now that you've found one, how do you join it? Thankfully, there's not one single way to join an org. I would start by checking their social media, figure out if there are any events that they are hosting, determine who the content/esports leads are, and start forming a connection. After a while of getting to know each other and maybe dropping a few dozen hints, they might end up giving you the down low on their recruiting situation. Sometimes you'll get just yeah, not right now. For me, I was invited to a grinders chat. Not a grinder chat, a group chat filled with probably 24 different creators that were interested in joining the same org as me. In that chat, there were leads I could ask questions of, I had a couple homies that were also grinding, and the owners were also there to keep an eye on us, checking to see who's being active. After about a month, I wasn't as active in the chat, but I was still trying to stay consistent, trying to learn new skills with editing, and still making sure that the top brass of the org saw what I was working on. I will wholly admit that along the way, I did have to stop and reflect as to why I wanted to join an org in the first place. The last time I was in an org, over 4 years ago, I ended up leaving because it felt like there wasn't a really strong partnership between the creators and the management of the org. I wanted to give as much energy as I could to support the org and the events they wanted to pull off, but it didn't really feel like I was getting anything out of it. Sure, I may have gotten a handful of followers on socials, but as cheesy as it sounds, I wasn't really able to make friends in that org. It wasn't till after I left that I found people that had also been in the org, and we were able to connect and become friends over the shared misfortune. However, now slightly older, slightly more mature, I realized that by looking into smaller orgs, I could find more close-knit communities, friends, people that are more actively able to support each other. The question of being in an org is one that I won't stop asking anytime soon. Being present about my situation, understanding where I'm at with personal growth, with content, with life in general, and how I can constantly improve it, is how I intend to grow as a person and as a creator, always looking for new opportunities. I still have more questions that I want to ask, more answers to find out, and a lot more research to do in general. Like, when you join an org, what do potential sponsors think? Do they see your work and your being in an org as a green flag? Or are they concerned about how your new connection with a different corporate entity will affect their image? Or perhaps, when looking for an org to find that matches your values, your goals, you can't find one. So, do you just make your own? Do you go out and try to start the next big org, looking for people with similar passions so that you can create a team all on your own? Questions that I do not have the answers for. So I actually intend to look to someone else for those answers, and hopefully we'll be able to bring them on the podcast. I mentioned that I had been trying and grinding and hoping to catch the eyes of the owner of that org I was working towards. Well, a couple weeks ago, one of the leads for the org, a buddy of mine named Pags, who I actually mentioned in the first episode of this podcast as a fellow grinder, he hit me up to do a content review. He wanted to talk about one of the videos that I'd been working on. We hopped in Discord, and he said, "Yeah, I totally lied about that. I just wanted to tell you that I'm picking you up." So, as of May 12th, 2024, I was officially picked up by the esports and entertainment org, Pride, as a content creator. I'm super appreciative for the guys in Pride for bringing me on, and I can't wait to show them what else I'm capable of. And I plan on taking notes along the way, just in case any of the lessons I learned can be shared with you guys. If you want to have a chance of hearing those lessons as soon as possible, make sure to subscribe over here on YouTube or drop a follow over on Spotify to see the new episodes of Tavern Chat as soon as they get released. You can also keep up with me over on Twitter at DaveTheBard_. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure to tip your waiters and waitresses. And I'll talk to you next time on Tavern Chat.